Welcome back. And as you mentioned in the beginning, of course, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's visit to France dominated the main headlines, international media and the Arab media as well. And talking about the important meetings that took place, especially his interview with Le Figaro, we're going to discuss this with our guest for today. We have the pleasure to have Dr. Mostafa Waly, a member of the Egyptian European Council. First of all, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you. Thank you.
Before I proceed, I want to highlight how important it is, this visit, especially during this critical and challenging period of time.
I mean, calling it as an important visit is just giving it the right expression and the right description. Because if you look around, and of course everybody is familiar with what is going on in the area. I mean, the area is our country, our neighbors, and of course the Mediterranean, and our interest in the Mediterranean concerning the oil gases, the gas and the oil fields, and at the same time our neighbors in both the northern shore of the Mediterranean and also our side from the Mediterranean. The issues are too many, and all of them are very important to our future, not only our present. And I'm very, very pleased that His Excellency President Sisi took on his shoulder that he will address all these issues in his way of representing the Egyptian people, the wisdom and the steadiness and the eagerness of getting the Egyptian people to the right path with the assistance of the Egyptian people.
Right. If I'm talking about this important interview that was held by Le Figaro with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and the points that were discussed, definitely it was of great importance. First of all, if I'm going to talk about the international coordination between Egypt and France and the international European community to combat terrorism and also countries who are funding terrorism organization, how do you see this part?
President Sisi was very frank and open in addressing these issues, especially when it comes to the importance of having a collective effort to stand for terrorism, which can even bring this the whole area, and instead of developing and instead of maintaining the best available situation in the understanding that tomorrow is better, they can make it hell for the whole area, and without discrimination, by the way. And this is the main issue. The collective effort, which the president was talking about it, he was always talking about it. And of course he showed, and everybody knows, but he stressed it, that we had our share in terrorism and in facing these terrible consequences of terrorism. And of course France was one of the top, actually, the most who have
was targeted also.
Targeted and went through dramatic and very tragic events.
Actually, this time the president was, let's say, clear and accurate in some of the words using when he was talking about countries funding terrorism, and also how Egypt has been targeted by at least 6 TV channels targeting Egypt.
Yes. It was very clear and noticeable. Maybe I wouldn't say the first time, but it was so open and so stressed, the issue of MBs, the Muslim Brotherhood, because he was talking frankly, giving their name, and he was telling...
This is what I... Yes.
Yes. This is... I was very pleased, because we have to face this. Because a lot of people, when you talk them as if... No, we have to address the actual consequences of having this... I wouldn't say ideology, I wouldn't say mentality. It's deeply rooted, evilness. It can't be anything, because when they turned it against the Egyptian people, it was evident that they are against the Egyptian people. Because if they say that the Egyptian people want us, the Egyptian people proved that they are against all what Egyptians, the normal Egyptian people, were looking for. It was against. We will not get into past, but right now they are still having this way of thinking, way of approach of the problems, trying to exaggerate and trying to, you know, threaten, and they are threatening actually sometimes. And then above all, they are using the media. And the media in this case, even the media is outside Egypt. So somebody is financing this. Then those who are dealing and cooperating with MBs, they are the same stand as the MBs concerning the Egyptian people. They are enemies in this case. They reach the point of enemies because they want to destroy a lot of things which the Egyptian people have paid much to have it. Even the safety and the peace in Egypt, they are threatening it.
Well, as usual, the wise leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, actually, this time, even these channels, he did not give them the space to use this visit. And he was able to tackle all files,
Yes.
all issues
Yes.
with a very firm stance, and he clarified the Egyptian stance in many files,
Yes.
and showing that Egypt is just, all what we need is to build our country
Yes.
and to live in peace.
Yes.
So when he started clarifying the image of Islam and talked about defending Islam and how if even you have freedom of speech, but at least you have to respect others' feelings, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to religion.
Yeah.
This was one of the most important parts as well.
Well, this issue was tackled to the best of, you know, wisdom and actuality, because I read the concept, I mean the aspects of this exclusive interview with Le Figaro, and he was very clear that one is free for in no coercion in religion, you know.
But not to hurt others.
Yes, but that's the start. But in the meanwhile, he was mentioning something nobody noticed it. This was very clever. I really appreciate it, and I raise my hat for him. He was saying this issue. I read it. Before the media, before the internet, maybe millions wouldn't have seen this, let's say, this comics, you know, this paintings about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Huh? You know, when he mentioned this, he shows the importance of the mass media, where everything can be entangled in it, you know, the bad and the good and the ugly, everything can be there. And you cannot expect that everybody will be so clear, so wise to pick and to analyze. It's like that, you know. So we should be very careful when we have an access to address something to millions of people at the same moment. Let's be very careful. That's what he wanted to tell. And I hope they understood this. And giving the reference to the availability and what's going on in our time now of the widespread effect of mass media through internet, it was very good actually.
Actually, maybe this has to do also with the part when he was talking about how many people are using social media and different campaigns just to put Egypt in a different position, and also, let's say, the targets or spread the suspicion about the state in Egypt. And definitely, as you mentioned, it is very much clear to everyone what we did during a short period of time when it comes to economy, building, the infrastructure, all mega projects that took place. And definitely this can never happen in a country that is suffering. And before we look at Egypt, why we are always looking at Egypt, why we are not looking about the neighborhood, looking about other countries who are really suffering and really need us to support and stand by them.
Exactly. This is actually a drastic contrast, you know. That
just take a look, as he mentioned, at Libya, at Syria, at all these countries.
Of course. I think the leadership of this country now, which actually brought us to this point, will get into history that they are the savior of the future of Egypt. I am not exaggerating, I'm just not talking, you know, blah, blah, blah. It is a fact. Anyone of real sense, you know, with some depth of, you know, knowing what could be, what could have happened, you know. And what could have happened, it's already happened with our neighbors, as you say. So it's enough for leadership to pass, to cross the time, and to go this way, to have at least a peaceful life for 100 million of people, peaceful people, want to develop themselves, eager to do something which they always kept dreaming of, to put Egypt in the right place, which it deserves. And that's it, simple as that.
Actually, Egypt achieved a growth rate of more than 3.6%
Yeah.
during the year 2020,
Yeah.
despite of all the challenges that
Yes.
are taking
Yes.
place. And of course, the main challenge
Yes.
that is confronting the whole world, the
Yes.
COVID-19 pandemic. This was another part that was discussed as
Of
well.
course. Just commenting on this issue, just lately there was an interview in Egypt, with the head of the IMF, representative of IMF, and she expressed her, these people are official, they cannot just talk blah 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 or just manipulate.
Facts
They are
and
telling
figures.
the truth. Yes, they talk
Controlled by
facts.
facts and
They
figures.
talk facts and figures because they have reference and they have also supervision. So she says that the appreciation of IMF for what's going on in Egypt is valid, is there, it's appreciated actually what was going on in Egypt. And even she went to the point that, okay, there is this program for helping Egypt. We will take the second portion of it, just 2 billion coming soon. That shows exactly that there is in the world those who are keen to follow up what's going on, appreciating what's going on in Egypt.
I think also there was a sort of clarification, and I believe that now no one can just blind his eyes or close his eyes on this situation when it comes to the human rights. And the president talked about this again, and everyone was talking about the international community, talking about the human rights in Egypt, and the president clarified this, talking about how we have to protect our country, and we have to protect a country that is faced by challenges among all neighborhood, talking about the Egyptian borders, talking about what is happening in the region. So what is your comment on this?
Simple. Egypt as a nation, as a home for 100 million people, deserve the full attention for daily life and their future. And this can never be done unless there is strong, understanding, people-loving leadership and government. And that's what we have. I'm personally, I know what's human rights. I have been through this. All my life I have been passing through this, getting into contacts and talks. But what's more important is that you must ensure for the majority of the people, the majority, the real sense of majority, a decent life in a very troubled time, in a chaos. It's a chaotic situation around us. Look what could happen any time. Anything can happen around us. So it's the blessing of God actually that, alhamdulillah, that we are going through this. So I'm not ready to discuss any issue, any minor issue. It's minor to the level that it's contradictory and counterproductive. Any small issue like this, because there is a real reason why it is there. If somebody would like to cry about something had happened, there is something, and always it shows like this. And let's not talk about this. Those who are claiming that there is human rights
because
violation.
they have the same problems, yes, of course. But when it comes to the national security, nothing but the national security will be on the top.
Yeah.
And again, talking about the president praised the role of Egyptians themselves, to continue what you were talking about, and that he could never have been able to achieve this without the will of the Egyptians who supported the president and the leadership during challenging time during the past few years, starting from the economic reform program. The Egyptian people accepted the reform program even though it is tough, and accordingly, we were able to pass through all this, and thanks God, because due to this, we were able to confront even the COVID-19 and to survive up till now.
That's fact. That's right. Let me continue a little bit on the previous issue concerning these human rights issues and so on. The president was very, very honest and addressing the issue in the right way. And it is words, all over, across, everybody was there to listen to him. You know what he says? That in Egypt, there's 65 million youth. Those youth, nobody can force them. Nobody can
no one can force
despotically.
any of the new generation
Yes.
to do anything.
No, but I mean the youth now.
Yes,
it's no longer no more.
Yes.
So he is even using, because they talk about youth and all this. Anyway, I just wanted to emphasize this. Getting back to this point, because this is the future. This is the actual work. Yes, without this economic reform, we couldn't stand this tough situation, a real tough. Look at the economies of the first-class economies in the world, the economy of the first world, whether it is Europe or America. You see how tough they have been through, and the losses there. I have my contacts, and even we sit together with our ambassadors, ambassadors of the European Union in our meeting before, and started to feel the impact, the terrible impact of this COVID. We have it, okay, but so far we sustained it so far, thank God. Let's hope that we will go through it. But also we have a lot as Egyptian people to care for this, because first of all, we are talking a pandemic. Then we have to care for all what is needed to protect ourselves as citizens. We have it in our hand, with the support of the government and of course the daily work of
the
all
civil society,
yes,
the civilians
everybody.
themselves.
That is something which, and we can go through it, inshallah, if we have to take care of this.
Moving back to the political side, because also many files were discussed,
Yeah.
on top of which also was the Palestinian cause.
Yes.
And we all now can see the role Egypt plays, whether in the Palestinian cause or in the whole region.
Yeah. Well, our position concerning this issue, I don't think there is too many changes, because still we believe in two states. And he mentioned it, the president mentioned it clearly, and even he mentioned the Eastern Jerusalem, Quds. And especially there was a recognition of two states, by all parties, including Israel itself,
Yeah.
So when we get back, there is no other way of solving this problem, no other way. Two people with two states, they can get together, simple as that. Because how could it go like that? How, like what's going on? It can't. It can go a year, 2 years, a decade. So what about the future? So, and by logic, peaceful solution, peaceful settlement for the chronic problems, the political chronic problem, internationally. This is the only way. It proved that's the only way.
What about, if I'm talking about the visit as a whole,
Yeah.
and talking about the important meetings that took place within the framework of the visit,
Yeah.
definitely this is also very, very important,
sure.
because you are going to these people at their homeland and telling them things with a transparently giving them the idea or what they need to know. Especially that we have deeply rooted relations with
Of
France,
course, yes.
and still we have many joint cooperation or joint
yes.
projects taking
Yes,
place between
of
both
course.
countries.
It's very interesting, when we talk France, then immediately anybody who knows about the history and the relations and international relations, we will recall a long history of cooperation, and the French Revolution, the French contribution to the civil societies, to the political thought, to humanity in general. And having this relation, it never shaked, it was not, at least for the last 3-4 decades, but fostering it is very important. What really drew my attention, that the president was keen about all this, but keen in the first place how to get more physical cooperation, economic cooperation with France, and it's all with all its of course background and the technical support it can offer, projects it can get through. Based on all this, I'm very, very fascinated, but it's always addressing. Look, the president is actually promoting investment in Egypt.
Of course, he starts and he opens the way paved the way
yes.
for us to
Yes.
move forward. We always say
Yes.
this, just
Yes.
he paves the way, and then it is our homework. Everyone has something to do. He has to move on his role.
Yes. Yeah, for
So-
example, the minister, if I want just proceed in this,
Okay.
the minister of finance in his meeting with the president, he was actually appreciating what's going on in Egypt. Then this is a minister of finance in France. I mean, he has,
Yes.
you know, politically or I mean diplomatically, he can go around it if it is not. But he said this because they know exactly what can be done.
Again, it is all about facts and figures.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Dr. Mostafa Waly, member of the Egyptian European Council. Always a pleasure having you with us
It's
on the
always
show.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Right, still we have more to bring you on the breakfast show, but first, moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back.